Well, hello there. Cher Cunningham here from mindfulentrepreneur.ca. Over the last 5 days, Monday to Friday this week, I have been going live sharing the small pieces that you put together in your bold and confident challenge. We finished day 5 of 7 yesterday. We'll be back on Monday doing some exponential and quantum levels to that. Today, I just wanted to pop in here and go a little deeper. I'm not going to try to turn this into a masterclass, or should I say, I'm going to try not to turn this into a masterclass, but I want to share a few things about what we're doing. And for those people who are more curious about why it works and how it works, instead of just that it works. Make sense? A lot of my clients love the fact that this is not just woo-woo, though it can go there, right? If you want to go woo, we can go as woo as your belief system desires, because everything that changes in your brain needs to be coded the way that you code it, which is why a lot of rapid change or rapid transformation therapy is content-free. Your unconscious mind already knows what the content is, so it doesn't need me throwing my ideas there. When I meet a client who says, I love that this is science-based, then I share that piece with them, because it truly is understanding how your brain works so that you can change your behaviors. Not just forcing yourself to change, though, feeling like you're suffering, feeling like you're struggling through walls of poop and sludge, not feeling like you're pushing something uphill and trying to remind yourself and build perseverance. Instead, making it so that you naturally love doing what you're doing, all of the little tasks, naturally feeling good about it, feeling confident and bold, because that is your natural state. What we do together is typically figure out what it is that you're telling yourself in order to feel crappy about something that is leading to your bold vision. Because it doesn't make sense, does it? What it usually comes down to is the gap between here's where you are and here's where you're going. And that gap is filled with things you don't want to do. That's why you're not already there. The things that must be done and could be done in a different way if you weren't so afraid of looking at them, right? When you've got that anxiety and resistance built up, you may not even realize that in between the gap are some things that you don't have to do that way. You can do them with your own strengths. You can do them feeling great about them. And when you feel like you've got the tools and you know you've got the coping skills and you've got the flexibility and you've got the mental mastery to look at them, then you get to unpack them and do them the way that suits you. If you're not really sure what that is, a lot of the work we're doing is around that. It's about coming from your strengths, but really digging deep into that from a marketing standpoint, because often sales and marketing is what's in that gap of, I've got something brilliant. I want to be triumphantly successful and change the world. And there's sales and marketing in between it. James Lamb has an incredible program on that where he will dive deep into that. My job is to help clear away the baggage, clear away all the crappy things you tell yourself, and install the powerful truth. Once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it, which is why you don't need willpower to do something that you know to be true about you. It just becomes who you are. So today I want to dive a little deeper into why you might want to feel differently about things. I'm going to share my screen here if this all works for me. So you'll see this circle, and I have this tendency to move my cursor over the circle on StreamYard, but I'm going to not use my cursor. I'll hold my hands behind my back. This is the cycle of coaching, life coaching, business coaching, relationship coaching. You have some results that are not what you want to achieve. The results that you do want, you have not reached yet. So understanding that results come from behaviors, it sounds a lot like common sense, and it is, but common sense is the hardest stuff to get moving on. Again, that could be a wonderful conversation if you want to chat with me about why is that so. But behavior leads to results. And that sounds easy. And I think one of the reasons that we make that seem like it's too simple is because it's so hard to create a new behavior when you're doing it at the behavioral level. The state that you're in, and yesterday we helped you install that morning ritual that would put you in that state of confident and bold, activating all your strengths? The state you're in determines the behaviors that naturally and easily come to you. So while you can write your book while feeling defeated and overwhelmed and frustrated, it is going to be a lot harder. It's going to take you a lot longer, and it's not going to get you into flow, which means it's going to create a worse result for you than if instead you got into the state first. Right? When you start being creative, you will feel creative, and you can power that up by choosing what state to be in. And when I talk about state, it's like I'm standing up straight. You'll notice that when I'm doing lives, I don't sit down. I actually elevate my laptop up high. When you're answering the phone, you've probably been told this before in sales training, that when you pick up the phone, stand up, put your shoulders back, pick up the phone, and say hi with a smile. A lot of things happen when you put those in place. You feel better. You are more connected, but the other person on the other end of the phone also feels better. Your state creates their state. So let's figure out how to create a state that is powerful. We talked about mapping across. We talked about rehearsal, and we're going to go into that a little deeper. So to create a state, your thoughts tell you what state to be in. So if you tell yourself, oh, this is going to be so overwhelming, your unconscious mind says, oh, this is overwhelming. Okay, feel overwhelmed. This is going to be so tiring. Things are as tiring as we believe they are going to be, which is, it sounds like an interesting claim, but there's actually scientific studies that have been done to say, if we convince you something is tiring, how tiring did you find it at the end? If we convince you that something is easy and joyful and playful, and we ask you at the end, how tiring was that? You look at us like you're crazy. It doesn't even make sense. What do you mean tiring? That was fun. That was light. So the thoughts that are happening, and the challenge there, of course, is so many of your thoughts happen at the unconscious, automatic, and you don't even notice them level. So in order to figure out what is the story you're telling yourself, that's why we look at those results. If your results are, I don't ask somebody to buy, right? What state was I in? Doubt, imposter syndrome, fear, uncertainty, and hesitancy. What would I have to tell myself about asking someone to buy in order for me to feel that way? That's my thoughts. Cool, right? We can backward engineer all of this. So we just need to know, what are the results? In NLP, I take that sentence, that first sentence that you say, if you could in one sentence tell me, what would you fix if I had a magic wand to fix it? I take that sentence and I can dig into the deeper structure of that to find the thoughts that created the wall that's in your way. Now, thoughts can, as I say, be challenging to change. What we need to do is know what they are, because then we change them at the belief level. What would I have to believe about myself to not want to sell, to not be willing to sell? What would I have to believe about my solution? Maybe people don't understand it. People don't get me. People don't believe in me. What would I have to tell myself about the client to not be willing to let them come on board and transform their life in whatever way I do that? So even if you're selling cameras and you have fantastic lenses that you could sell to people so that they feel like a professional photographer and they get new results, if you're hesitating to close that sale, what are you believing about yourself, your product, or them to not let them transform how they take pictures? Right? It's that simple. Simple, but not easy, because that belief is programmed physiologically into your brain. And unless you have the tools of hypnosis or neuro-linguistic programming, you do not have the tools to open it up and reprogram it. Now, just a quick definition. When I say hypnosis, NLP, I'm really talking about any tool hypnotically that allows you to feel like you have a technique to engage your unconscious mind in imagination, go through a process for a purpose in which you are deeply absorbed so that you get a new result. So if you do tapping, absolutely fantastic. If you do emotion code, same thing, right? We're working hypnotically to change a belief system and release any emotions that are tied to it. So when a belief gets installed in your brain, it is installed generally with a lot of emotion. Prior to the age of 7, you're just a little sponge. So a lot of the beliefs that are installed at that deep level are rules for life, who you are, whether you can trust people. Those all get installed, and they may not have a ton of emotion tied to them at that early stage. But as you go out in the world and you find proof that that belief is true, because that belief now filters the entire world around you and tries to create what's called confirmation bias. So you don't see the proof that the belief isn't true. It just doesn't show up in your awareness. Your brain is programmed to prove to you that what you believe is true. So if you believe you are unworthy, there is no level of external validation that is going to knock that out of your system unless it has huge emotion, right? Beliefs change after the age of 7 with huge emotion or hypnosis. So we can go in programmatically changing things. With hypnosis, you don't need to be asleep. You'll notice that a lot of the work we've been doing all week has been very active, very alert. Hypnosis isn't about a level of sleep. It's about a level of internal focus and imagination. Now, we can go really, really deep and install things at a level and install so that you forget that you learned the thing that you just learned, so that your conscious mind doesn't fight with you. And that's the biggest challenge in making change, is that you're consciously trying to change something that you consciously don't believe you can change. In order to make all of these techniques work, you just need to suspend disbelief. Like when you go to a movie, you go watch some great spy movie, you might see some hiccups in what they did, some mistakes that they made, but you've chosen to suspend disbelief. Play along. Pretend that those lights on the screen are real people, and pretend that the actors that are playing those parts are actually the characters within the movie. Otherwise, you can't laugh, you can't cry, you can't get mad, you can't get excited during that movie. If you have ever experienced a movie, you've been in hypnosis deliberately. So that means that you can do all of these techniques. Make sense? Yeah. So how do we do that? How do we go deeper into that? Finding those beliefs is really logical. Sometimes it's good to dissociate out of your own story, right? Take the story and imagine that you can put it up on a movie screen and just observe and say, what does this character believe that makes them think that way? What is it that they're telling themselves that makes them feel overwhelmed? Right? Imagine that movie screen up there. Sometimes we'll just ask questions like, why don't you have the results? Well, because I don't have time. Why do you feel you don't have time? Oh, because I'm so busy. What are you busy doing? Well, I'm on Facebook and I'm doing this and I'm meeting these people. And so as we dive into it, we actually have to excavate a few layers to find out where the busy work is coming from that is keeping you from doing the work that you profoundly care about, because it's always there. Once we find that belief, there are so many techniques for changing it. One of the best techniques that you can do is just have a conversation of empathy. This is magical. I've mentioned it in the last few days that curiosity is magic. Empathy is also magical. If you listen to Brené Brown's talk about shame, I think so many of our negative beliefs really are tied in shame that we don't want people to know about them. But as soon as you have that conversation of empathy, somebody who says, oh, gee, that must be hard, and helps you see that you're loved, you're valuable, even though you believe this silly thing, the belief actually starts to shake loose already. Then you can start digging into, is this belief even true? Make sense? Just going to take a quick sip of coffee here. It is Saturday morning. Although this is not my caffeinated cup of coffee. So I want to just share a little bit about that, why we talk about feeling different. So sometimes people say that they want to feel more confident, they want to feel bolder, they want to feel happier. And feeling is very easy. In order to just feel those things, all you have to do is remember a time when you felt that way, a specific time, and then step into that memory as though it were happening right now. So then you feel bold, you feel confident, you feel happy. Did it make a difference in your life? So yes, right? It's nice to feel those ways, but did it bring you a new result? We need to do it for a purpose with intention. So you'll see a lot of the work we're doing is about having intention. When you are feeling confident, when you're feeling happy, when you're feeling bold, what will you be doing or not doing that is different than what you're doing now? So in this gap that we talked about here, where it's where you are now and where you want to be, let me take this off of the screen here. There we go. So between here, this gap that you have between here I am right now, and I know that's a challenge figuring out where am I? What am I actually doing? What is my real challenges? What is the actual problem? Because once you can figure out what the real problem is, you're halfway solved. And then where do I want to be? How am I going to get from here to there? There are some behaviors that get you that result. Your behaviors. And I know sometimes you need support from other people, and most of the time, if you are in a healthy, growing business, you need to collaborate, you need support, you need mentors and coaches, partners, JV partners. To get those people in your life requires you to behave in a way that leads to that. So in order to do that, we want to know what behaviors you would be doing or not doing that are different than what you're doing now. When you are confident and bold, what are those behaviors? In order to do those behaviors, you want to feel in that state of greatness that allows you to achieve them. So it feels very backwards. It feels very upside down, and it needs to, because as soon as you can flip your thinking this way, it all gets so much easier. So when you are feeling bold and confident, what will you be doing? Now, that does not mean I'll be earning $100,000, right? Show me earning $100,000. Show me that for the next 10 minutes. Right? It doesn't mean I will be an expert or I'll be the recognized expert in the field of hypnosis. Show me that. Right? That's not a behavior you can do. It is a goal. It is an outcome that is the result of a bunch of behaviors that you do consistently over time. Make sense? So when you're looking for that behavior, it has to be something that if somebody was looking across the room, they'd be saying, that person is doing follow-up with their existing clients, right? That's a behavior. So feeling different will lead to that new behavior. If I have a feeling of curiosity and compassion and connection, I'm reaching out to my clients with that, that makes reaching out really easy. All I have to tell myself is that my clients are real people that have real needs, that want to build relationship with the person that they are working with. And that's a pretty easy one. So what do you want to do instead of what you're doing now? If you are hiding from the phone, and I'm going to use that as an example today, if you have a phone aversion, which is one tiny part of sales aversion, and may come from a phone phobia that happened way before you started a business, maybe even way before the age of 7. But if you are not following up with people with the telephone, or if the phone rings and it triggers you, then that's a trigger that we can change. That's not a trigger we can change. It's a trigger we can use to make change. One of our goals is to get a shopping list, a treasure hunt of triggers so that we can change behaviors. And what we're doing when we do this is we're actually looking at the behavior you are doing, looking at the behavior you would rather do, and we, in this process, actually include all of that, the beliefs, the thoughts, the state that lead to that behavior. Because when you have a picture of something, all of those are wrapped into it. All of the processes, all of the automation is wrapped into it. You don't have to map out the process necessarily to make the change. You can if you'd like to. So let's just look at that. If your cell phone rings and you hear it on the first ring and it puts you into anxiety, and you tell yourself, I must have forgotten something, somebody's angry. That's what created the state of anxiety. It was what you told yourself, not that you forgot something, not that somebody was mad, and not that the cell phone rang, right? If the cell phone rings when you're expecting a call from a friend and it rings and you go, there's my friend, it doesn't put you into that state of anxiety because instead you tell yourself, oh, my friend's calling, this is great. The trigger is the phone ringing and you don't know who's there. The words you tell yourself, your thoughts, create the state of anxiety. So finding that trigger is the key. Now, if every time the phone rings, it consistently, and you can count on it, creates anxiety, then it's an awesome trigger. I know it doesn't feel like that right now, but when you shift how you feel about that phone ringing, right? So we talk about how to change how you feel about anything. You can change that. Thoughts are tiny. The trigger is teeny tiny. Sometimes it feels overwhelming. It feels like the biggest thing in your world that every time the phone rings, it throws you off and it makes you feel scared and anxious. And at a physiological level, at a brain science level, it's still just as tiny as when you smell a chocolate chip cookie, you want one. It's that neutral. This is a huge shift in how we're taught to think about emotions. So often emotions and big emotions and anger and fear and anxiety are glorified as something that is real, that is reality. And emotions are real, right? And they're not anything more than data that you can look at and say, chocolate chip cookie was cooked, motion of yummy, that sounds comfortable and loving. Like all of those things are just little tiny pieces of data. When you make that shift, that you can be objective about emotions and just say, anxiety's here, that's interesting. I wonder where it came from. I wonder if there's anything I need to do about it. Are there any actions to take to make the anxiety go away? Or can I just say, thanks, anxiety, bye-bye? This is a huge shift in adulthood development as well, to be able to be objective about your life instead of being subject to your life. And as an entrepreneur, because you are creating your life, you are designing it and envisioning it, it's an important step for you to take. Being able to change how you feel about that phone ringing is a massive, magical thing as a result. It's a teeny tiny thing as a process. So we look at that trigger. Now, your trigger is not your cell phone. Looking over at your cell phone existing is not a trigger, unless your anxiety is so bad that all you have to do is glance at your phone and you tell yourself, oh, I should be following up with people. Oh, I should be phoning people. Oh, that's going to ring. In which case the trigger is, I look at my phone. If it is when your phone rings, the trigger is actually when the phone rings. Why does this matter? Because we want to change a behavior, and the behavior has one strand of your brain that's running it. The strand that runs, oh, well, I looked at my phone and I feel like I should clean it. We don't need to change that. Or I looked at my phone and I should put it away. I looked at my phone and that makes me want to check the weather. All of those are fine and healthy and they do not get in the way of your brilliance. But the phone rang and it threw me into anxiety, which threw off my day, robbed me of my confidence and boldness. That we want to change. So what we can do are a couple of things. In person or one-on-one, not necessarily in person, we actually do this through Zoom as well. We would do something called a swish, where we say, okay, if you could change this and behave in a different way, what would be a really powerful way to behave? What would be a great result of what would you want to tell yourself and what would you want to show up like instead when your phone rings? And it doesn't even have to be what will happen. It just has to be something different and positive. So I could have this vision of, instead, when my phone rings, I will tell myself, that's probably Bill Gates. And I'll pick up the phone and say, hey, Bill. Now, if I install that into my unconscious mind, that I could do that, It doesn't mean I'm going to become an automaton and every time the phone rings, say, "Hey, Bill." But it does mean that that's going to fire in my brain and it's going to be such a positive, powerful place. Bill Gates must be calling me to buy my business, to consult with me, to work with me in some fashion, to invite me on his private jet to go to some Caribbean island. That is a much more positive state to be in when the phone rings than, "Oh, crap, I'm probably behind. Somebody's probably angry." Right? So when I do answer the phone, what am I going to do instead? I am going to answer for the one thing, right? You know yourself that sometimes when you're triggered by that cell phone, you're like, "I'm just not going to answer. I'll call them back." Not the greatest behavior. If it's, "I'm busy," that's interesting. I'll make a note and I'll schedule in to call them back at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Still healthy, still great, still moving towards your brilliance. Awesome. Fine behavior. And right, if the phone rings and you're like, "Oh, must be Bill Gates calling. He wants to buy my company for $3.5 billion. I'm busy. I'll call him back at 2. Still healthy, still working towards your brilliance. This is a design process. And when you have mastered this level of belief around your thoughts and your state, that you recognize that you can edit and change and manage and master it, then it really is just a design process. What do I want to feel instead so that I can do what? So I can answer the phone with positive excitement, telling myself, "I must be succeeding because people are calling me. I'm so popular. I'm so needed. This is fantastic." Finding the trigger and then choosing what you want to do instead. And you can spend a ton of time on this. If you just spent the time on this design phase where you think, "My alarm goes off in the morning. I tell myself, oh, just 5 more minutes. I can't get out of bed. I can't handle this. I'm too tired. What do I want to do instead?" The alarm goes off in the morning. I want to roll out of bed, turn it off because I set it for exactly when I wanted to get up, have a glass of water, and tell myself, "I'm super excited. This is my day." Right? Just design process. Now, here's the thing. In order to do the design process, you have to imagine it. You have to rehearse it by imagining, well, what will I do next and what will be next? And it's like watching the movie in your mind, isn't it? Everything that we create in our brain first. And as we talked about this week, your unconscious mind doesn't know it didn't happen. Your unconscious mind doesn't know that it didn't happen. So it believes you're already doing that. And the more times you imagine it, the more times you do that, your reticular activating system starts saying, "Oh, this is the way we show up. This is just natural." And even if you have yet to do it, if all you've done is rehearse it at a deep imaginative level, tomorrow, that's how you show up automatically without thinking about it. And that's why hypnosis is so powerful and profound, because we take you deep enough into your unconscious mind to install it as a belief. And then it just automatically runs. Now, when you get very playful with this, as you look at, okay, how do I want to feel differently about all these things? You can make, again, a long shopping list. Book a session with me and we can just run through all of them using either the mapping across that we've done this week or the swish piece where we'd say, "Do you have a picture? Let's replace it with a new picture of a new behavior." It's the same process of changing how you feel about something. You can say, "I want to eat less ice cream. I want to drink more water. I want to work out for 20 minutes at 4 o'clock. I want to fall asleep instantly. I want to love waking up in the morning. I want to love flossing my teeth." Mapping that across to say how taking that trigger and changing how you feel about it. We can do it by rehearsing it so that it's installed as a natural thing. And we can map across with those submodalities. So we talked about those teeny tiny tasks that lead to your success, and we map them across to feeling motivated. Same thing, we're trying to find that trigger. And so the trigger in doing a task is I look at my calendar and I see that I'm supposed to reach out to a JV partner. I tell myself, "I don't have time for this. I'm too overwhelmed." And then I feel insecure and I don't reach out. When we instead take that, I look at my calendar and see that it's time to reach out to a JV partner, and I want to feel motivated about it. I want to feel powerful and excited and curious about it. I can rehearse the different behavior, or I can just map it across to be something that I store in my brain as exciting and desirable. So what we did yesterday was, or the day before yesterday, is we elicited, when you think about something that you're excited about and confident that you can do, and this was the achievement of your vision, it can be just as easily riding your bicycle. If you're so totally confident and motivated to ride your bicycle and you think about that and you're like, yes, I'm motivated, that's a fabulous one. It doesn't have to be related to business. We just need to know how you store things that you're excited and motivated about. You'll notice as you start working with this, when you think about eating a dead rotting fish, do you have a picture? It's not going to be full color up front. It's going to be gray and fuzzy and way over there, right? When you think about riding your bike, it's going to be up front. It's going to be colorful. You might be in the picture, seeing through your own eyes. You might hear noises, smell the flowers, hear birds tweeting. We take those submodalities and then we say, okay, when you think about reaching out to a JV partner, make it big, make it bright, bring it up nice and close, bring that picture up very close, surround yourself with it. Smell flowers, add the scent of flowers to it, add the sound of birds singing, and lock it in place and make a sound like closing Tupperware. And that tells your unconscious mind, this is how I want to be. As you work with this, you'll find all the things that you're excited about and motivated to do are pretty well stored with the same submodality set. Not the same as everybody else, but the same for you. Typically, everybody stores things that are desirable, that they think they can have up close. As you're working with it, you'll find that your picture is still or moving consistently for one or the other, right? So if it's desirable, it's still. If it's undesirable, it might be shaking. It might be moving as a video, so you can actually see action happening when it's desirable, or it might be frozen like a snapshot when it's undesirable. This will not change from time to time. That submodality worksheet that you got the other day, you can map out what is confidence. When I think about a time when I was truly confident, powerfully confident, feeling great about myself, over the moon, was it black and white or color, moving or still? Where was it? How close was it? How big was it? Was it wrapping around you, panoramic, or was it framed? Having somebody run through this with you so that your unconscious mind is answering really, really fast is a great idea. Map out confidence. How about something that you know will happen? It's a good one, right? If you know you will achieve your goal, how is that different than you hope you will achieve the goal? So when you think about a big goal that you have for this quarter, do you have a picture? Yeah. So then we just make it something that you know will happen, right? This or something better. Because you can always be confident that this or something better will happen. As long as you do the work, behavior creates results. So map out, I know this will happen. Will the sun rise tomorrow? When you think about the fact that the sun will rise tomorrow, do you have a picture? Right? Notice what the submodalities of those are. Black and white or color, near or far, moving or still. Map that out. And again, take that goal. When you think about that goal, do you have a picture? Map across the submodalities, the way your unconscious mind stores something that you're absolutely certain of, into that goal. It is super cool, and it is just the way brains work. It isn't woo-woo magic. It's how brains store information and know how to feel about it, so you don't have to think, right? Because our brains are very efficient. Save energy when possible. Turn off the light. Our brains do that to us all the time. And we can hack into that knowledge for good and choose to use it to change how we feel about things. If you want to love salad, think about something similar. Crispy, crunchy lettuce and radishes and cucumber. Well, what's crispy and crunchy? Chips. What if you mapped across how you feel about chips into how you feel about salad so that you feel like you just crave salad? It's wonderful. It's yummy. When you're watching TV, you're just like, I'd love a salad right now. Wouldn't that be fun? So play around with this. Make a list of the triggers, right? You've got those worksheets, and really get into what is the actual trigger. It's not, I see my husband's face. It's, I see my husband's face and he makes that weird squinty, disdainful look at me. And then I feel right, angry or frustrated, or what did I tell myself to have that happen? So it's not just the face, it's what about the face. It's not just the phone, it's what about the phone? Does it light up? Does it ring? It's not just your computer, it might be when you open your email, right? That's a good one too. A lot of people are just so reliant on their email. Knowing when to stop something is a whole different story, and it requires proactiveness. So if you get into your email and you find that it takes you an hour to do your email, and then you realize that you weren't actually using any criteria to sort your email and deal with the important ones first and keep it down to 10 minutes, set a timer. Don't hope that you will stop checking email in a timely fashion. Don't hope you'll get off Facebook in a timely fashion. Set an actual timer as part of the trigger. When I see that I'm about to open my email, I've got my mouse moving and I'm about to click on it, add in a frame in your movie of, I set a timer for 15 minutes on my phone or on my computer, whatever app I have to set that timer. Then I open the email. The timer goes off and you're like, oh, whew, good thing that was set. Now I can stop. Same with Facebook. When I'm about to open Facebook, I can see the white F in the blue circle, and I'm moving over to click on it. Set a timer. Set a timer and pull out your list of why you're going on Facebook during business hours as well. Or in the evening, instead of saying, I'm going to lose 3 hours of my night on Facebook just looking at cat pictures and cat videos. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I think there's a good place for that. Maybe even in your morning ritual, your magic morning ritual, I want to feel humor, throw in 2 minutes of watching funny cat videos, right? But not an hour or 2 or 3 hours. Hoping that you will stop is not the answer. Programming in an extra step, like set a timer. And set a timer and put it across the room if you're really hard on this. Like if you get binge watching Netflix and then feel guilty afterwards, set the timer on your phone, put it across the room near enough that you can hear it, but far enough that you actually have to get up, walk over and turn it off so that you know for certain that that action will change it. So that was, and I kept it as short, almost as short, I was aiming for half an hour. That is changing how you feel about anything. So we talked about finding the right trigger, knowing what you want to do instead, and how you need to feel to do that thing, and tying it into the story that you tell yourself about it. Then we talked about how programmatically you can change it just by rehearsing the new behavior, rehearsing it with enough imagination that your unconscious mind believes that's the way you've always done it. Or using the ability to map across, or even just using the design phase of that more desired future. And then we also talked about swishing, replacing the one picture with another picture. And that's something that I would normally do with you in my office or on Zoom to say, when you think about that old behavior, do you have a picture? I have you step into that picture so you're associated in, and we put that picture in front of you. And then what we do is we make a little tiny picture of how you want to be instead, and we see yourself in that picture. It's tiny and gray over here for now, while the current one is up here, and we just swish it and we change it so that it is a small, sudden shift in your brain so that we're reprogramming that one strand of, when I see this, I'm going to do this, how you want to be instead. And if you'd like to experience that, it's a lot of fun. Again, most change is easier, faster, more profound, and longer lasting if you're playing and having fun, using your imagination and adding some emotion to it, right? So feel free to reach out. I would love to walk you through that. I hope you find this helpful as you're digging into finding triggers and changing how you feel so that you can change the behavior, or changing the behavior and linking it to how you want to feel, right? Bringing in that emotion on purpose. So have some fun with that. Let me know how it goes.